Northwest of Istanbul, there's a massive patch of land that used to be a heavily scarred coal mine. Before that, it was a forest. Before that, wetlands. For decades, nobody particularly wanted it. It sat there, stripped, flooded, and completely forgotten, while the historic city of Istanbul hummed along 35 kilometers to the southeast. But in 2013, the Turkish government decided to turn this abandoned wasteland into the ultimate geopolitical cheat code. They weren't expanding an existing airport or adding a runway to something that already worked. They started from absolute zero on exhausted Earth to build the most connected aviation hub on the planet. By 2025, they had done exactly that. Here's what that looks like in real numbers. The terminal building covers 1.44 million square meters under a single roof. That is, without exaggeration, the largest airport terminal in the world. To give you a comparison that actually lands, London Heathrow's Terminal 5, which took 19 years to plan and build before opening in 2008, covers about 353,000 square meters. Istanbul is 4 of those connected. The airport handled 84.5 million passengers in 2025, ranking 8th globally. It has also been Europe's busiest airport by total aircraft movements for 4 consecutive years. In 2025, the global airport industry body, ACI Europe, published its annual connectivity rankings, the definitive measure of how connected a hub is to the rest of the world. Istanbul knocked Frankfurt off the top spot. Not top 5, not top 3, number 1. Why Turkey had to build it? The short answer is that the old airport was dying under its own success. Ataturk Airport sat on Istanbul's European side, surrounded by the city in every direction. By 2018, it was processing about 68 million passengers a year. The problem was it had been designed for roughly 40 million. Aircraft were stacking up in holding patterns, waiting for a slot to land. Diversions to other cities were happening regularly, and there was physically no room to expand because Istanbul had grown around it on all sides. At the same time, Turkish Airlines had a very specific problem. The airline wanted to fly everywhere, and I mean that almost literally. It already served more countries than any other airline in the world. The geography of Istanbul made that ambition completely rational. From Istanbul, you can reach every European capital within about 3 hours on a standard narrow-body aircraft. The whole Middle East is within 2 hours. Central Asia, the Caucasus, North Africa, all of it is reachable without a wide-body. That geographic position is the ultimate cheat code. Istanbul sits at the exact point where a single airline can run a hub-and-spoke network connecting passengers from dozens of smaller cities across 3 continents, funneling them through one airport and out the other side. The math works because the distances are short enough that the narrow-body feeder flights are incredibly cheap to operate. But none of that works if the hub itself is at capacity. And by 2018, it was. There were nights at Ataturk where the control tower was managing aircraft holding over the Sea of Marmara, just waiting for a landing slot that wasn't there. What building from nothing actually means. So in 2013, a consortium of 5 Turkish construction companies, Cengiz, Colin, Mapa, Limak and Kalyon, won the contract. The total economic value of the deal, including rent payments to the Turkish government over 25 years, was 32.4 billion euros. The site? 76 million square meters of former coal mining land on Istanbul's northwest edge near the Black Sea, with almost no existing road network and 0 metro connection. They built it in 42 months. The airport that didn't even exist in 2017 is now the most connected hub on the planet. And by the time you finish watching this, you're going to understand exactly how that happened and why Turkey built it where nobody was watching. The airline is the airport, Turkish Airlines hub. Here's the part that most coverage skips. Istanbul Airport and Turkish Airlines are not really 2 separate entities with a standard commercial relationship. They are effectively one single project with 2 names on it. Turkish Airlines controls about 80% of all flights at IST. That market share is higher than Delta's share at Atlanta, higher than American share at Charlotte, higher than any other major airline-airport relationship among developed world hubs. Additionally, 98.8% of every Turkish Airlines flight either starts or ends at Istanbul Airport. The airline has no meaningful backup hub. IST is everything, which means when Turkish Airlines decides to grow, it's deciding to grow Istanbul Airport. And the airline has been growing hard. It now serves more international destinations than any airline on Earth, over 340 destinations across 129 countries. British Airways comes in second at 177 international routes. The gap is not subtle. The way this works in practice is through a connecting model that sounds almost too simple until you see the numbers. A passenger from, say, Ljubljana, Slovenia, wants to get to Lagos, Nigeria. That's not a route that could ever sustain direct service because the demand just doesn't exist. But Turkish Airlines flies Ljubljana to Istanbul on a small A321 and Istanbul to Lagos on a 787. The two segments stitched together at the hub produce a journey that works for the passenger and works financially for the airline. Multiply that across hundreds of city pairs and you get their historic connectivity ranking. In 2025, the OAG Megahubs Index showed Istanbul jumping from 8th to 2nd globally in a single year, driven by a 25% increase in potential connections. At the end of 2025, 35.7 million of the airport's 84 million passengers were transfer travelers who never left the terminal. They just came in, changed planes, and left. That number alone is roughly equal to the entire annual passenger traffic at Seattle-Tacoma International. The geopolitics hiding in plain sight. This is where the story gets interesting, in a way that the airline press releases don't fully explain. Istanbul Airport isn't just a commercial hub. It's a geopolitical instrument. Turkey occupies a position in international relations that is genuinely unlike any other NATO member state. It maintained commercial air service to Russia through the entire period of Western aviation sanctions. It flies to Iran, Syria, Israel, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, countries that have various levels of conflict, hostility, or diplomatic freeze with one another, all through the same connecting hub. Turkish Airlines also operates to more African countries than any European carrier. What this means in practice is that there are hundreds of city pairs in the world where a passenger's most practical routing is through Istanbul simply because other options are diplomatically or airspace-wise unavailable. A passenger traveling from Tehran toward a European destination doesn't have the range of hub choices that a passenger from, say, Dubai does. Istanbul fills those gaps. Turkey spotted this position explicitly. The airport wasn't a spontaneous business decision. Erdogan announced the project back in 2005, and in 2008, the Turkish government published what it called the 2023 Strategic Vision Paper, a formal national planning document that listed aviation and transportation as strategic sectors for the country. The airport was part of a larger bet that Turkey's geographic position at the intersection of Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East was an economic asset that could be directly monetized through physical infrastructure. The cargo side of the airport is where this gets most concrete. Istanbul's cargo handling area is described by the airport operator as nearly 3 times the size of Hong Kong Airport's cargo footprint. Total planned cargo capacity at full build is 5.5 million tons per year. FedEx invested €26 million in a dedicated facility there in 2024, explicitly to use Istanbul as a bridge between Asia and Africa. Turkey's e-commerce giant Trendyol put €36 million into a 12,000 square meter export facility at the airport, turning out 15,000 products per day for international shipping. The empire in the thumbnail isn't a metaphor for size, it's a description of function. Istanbul has made itself the unavoidable node between regions that need to move people and goods but have limited options for doing it, the honest limits and passenger experience. Let me be straight here, because you've earned the real version. Istanbul is not the world's busiest airport. Atlanta handled 108 million passengers in 2024. Istanbul is at 84.5 million and moving up, but that gap is real. The connectivity rankings that put Istanbul at number 1 measure potential connections. How many destination pairs can theoretically be served through a hub? This metric specifically rewards the exact model that Turkish Airlines has built. It's legitimate, but it's not the same as saying Istanbul handles more actual traffic or more revenue than London, Frankfurt, or New York. Ultimate infrastructure masterclass or legal shortcut. Here's the way I've been turning this story over. The standard complaint about big infrastructure projects is that they take forever. The Heathrow third runway debate is 20 years old and still producing court cases. The HS2 railway in the UK has been argued about for 15 years and was partly cancelled. Denver International took 16 years from concept to opening, and even then it ran massively over budget. Istanbul built the world's largest airport terminal from a coal mine in 42 months, and then it became the world's most connected hub in 6 years. That is either a remarkable case of what's possible when a government decides something matters and executes with genuine commitment, or it's a story about what you can skip over. Environmental reviews, opposition groups, planning inquiries, and court challenges when you move faster than the legal system can keep up. Probably both, honestly. What isn't debatable is the outcome. The airport that was supposed to be a regional connector is now the global connectivity leader. The airline that used to circle over Istanbul waiting for a landing slot is now adding Melbourne, Sydney, Denver, and Santiago in the same calendar year. The coal mine is gone. The wetlands are gone. The forest is gone. What's there now is an empire that keeps getting bigger, built deliberately on purpose in a place nobody was looking. That is exactly the kind of play that changes global aviation, and it already has. What do you think of Istanbul's strategy? Do you think building a separate company is worth it? Or were there other approaches that could have worked just as well? Let us know in the comments.